All right. Hey, I'm frozen, Derek, here for a second. But I'm going to go in. I don't know what happened here. I'm frozen. But we're going to introduce Coach Watkins from UNH. UNH is this, storied program. Back when I played at UConn in the 90s, that was one of our nemesis, and we had some great battles with those guys back in the day. Coach is the wide receiver coach there. He's really had a really fast rising career. He was with Concordia University. He was with St. Thomas. He was with Southeastern Oklahoma, College, and really has done a great job of really moving. I was most recently before coming to UNH with Wagner, and he's really climbed the coaching ladder. He's done a fantastic job with a fantastic program. Without further ado, let's introduce Coach Watkins. How's everything going, Coach?
Going well, man. I appreciate that introduction. Were you there when Coach Santos was playing?
Coach Santos was a little bit after me.
Gotcha.
So I think he was trying to think who the quarterback was when I was there. But Santos was a few years after me. I want to say like 4 or 5 years after I was there. Yeah, he was a fantastic quarterback at UNH. Yeah, I can't remember.
I know he got a couple upsets under his belt. I think UConn was one of them. Rutgers was another school. I was just didn't know if you were part of that team. Northwestern. So.
It might have. I don't think so, but we definitely been upset by UNH. We upset them one year when I was a redshirt freshman. They were like ranked in the top 15 in the country, and then we beat them. I was like a 93. I'm looking here, Coach. So Coach Santos was, he's after me. I was 96, so he's 2004 through 2007, I think. But yeah, and then in 96, my senior year, we were number 8 in the country, and they went up 14-0 at halftime. We could not climb back into it. They beat us. I think it was like they had Jerry Azuma, who was like all-time great.
Yeah.
Back there. Yep. So Jerry Azuma ran for 9,000 yards against us. I remember having to tackle him. I had some great tackles, but I remember tackling him thinking, I was 235 pounds linebacker, and he was, I don't know, maybe 190, maybe. And I remember tackling him and pulling him to the ground the first or second play of the game. And I tackled him. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is strong. He's not just strong, but he was moving so quick. His feet were moving so fast that it took everything I had every single time I tackled him, because he was just always moving. His feet were always moving. You know what I mean? Like if you want for running backs, that's the key, man. Those feet keep moving. It makes it hard for bigger guys to take you down. And just knock you right down, because those feet stop. It's easy for a bigger, strong guy to take you right down. But anyway, Coach, I'd like you to go into your background. I'm going to jump right back out and jump right back in, but please dive into that, and then we'll roll from there.
Absolutely. So Charles Watkins. I'm originally from Camden, New Jersey, so I'm very biased. I think South Jersey has the best talent. Played my high school ball at Camden High. I was blessed to play college football at Duke University under David Cutcliffe. I had an extra year, went to Wagner and got my master's there, and wanted to stay around the game a little longer. So I took a trip out to Iowa. That's where the 319 number comes from. Played for the Cedar Rapids Titans for 2 years, and quickly saw that I wouldn't be able to retire doing this. So I was blessed to have an opportunity to go coaching, and that's where the journey starts. And I'm very blessed because, I'm a young kid. I thought I was the sharpest OC ever, and I was ready to go coach wide receivers. And I found out quickly that I was going to coach DBs, and I think that decision blessed my career because I was able to get on the other side of the ball. I was able to learn what defense were doing, but I was also able to use the knowledge that I did have, or I have for offense to help the DB group. And we ended up winning a conference championship my second year, which was my first year, which was phenomenal. Ended up losing in the second round of the playoffs, but that was the most wins College had. And it was a great experience. from there, after a year or two, I wanted to get back on the offense. That's where I had a quick stint at Southeast Oklahoma State, smallest town I ever lived in, right there in Durant, Oklahoma, about an hour from Dallas. Love recruiting DFW, some talent out there. But I had opportunity to come back home. A GA opportunity opened up at Rutgers, where I was the wide receiver GA under Lester Erb. Was able to see my mom, my nephews, my cousins, sisters. They were able to come up and see. So that was a great time. I quickly knew that we weren't winning. And I know when you're not winning, you're on the hot seat, and didn't know exactly. Young, I didn't know where that left me. So I quickly decided to throw myself a life jacket and had an opportunity to become the youngest defensive coordinator in NCAA, with going to Concordia, Chicago, which definitely a blessing. I met my wife there, so Chicago will always have a special place in my home. We met right before COVID. COVID happened while I was out there too, and during that time, I was able to network with a lot of coaches and built a great relationship with Glenn Caruso, who was looking for a coach, a offensive coach. They had made the transition from Division III to Division I, so they were able to have more full-time coaches. And with that, I was blessed that he considered me. He wanted somebody that could recruit the East Coast, somebody that could recruit Chicago. So I fit that mold. Went there. That was an unbelievable opportunity. I learned so much from him. Learned how to really manage a room, how to manage a unit, how to recruit. Right, it was how to be a head coach. Just sitting next to him, you learn so many things, and that was a blessing. We were able to win the Pioneer Conference our second year. We couldn't qualify for the playoffs because of the rules, and that was a great experience. I met a lot of great friends, guys I still talk to this day, guys that have been to the wedding. So it was awesome. We love Minnesota. My sister-in-law is still out there. That was part of the recruiting package. To get my wife to come out there, had to get her sister out there. Now she's athletic director at one of the high schools. So, always recruiting, right? Got to make sure you make the package sweet. So she's still out there. We love the Twin Cities. But then I wanted to coach scholarship ball, and I wanted to get back. At that time, I was a running back coach. I wanted to get back in the receiver room. And I saw that New Hampshire had an opening, and I was able to connect with Coach Santos. We hit it off. Interview went well with the OC, and came right in the middle of spring ball, right? Talking about being thrown right into the fire. I think it was practice 5 or 6, and I get there, I watch a practice or two, and he's like, "Hey, you want to jump in?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I'm jumping in, and it was great. It was unbelievable. We had a decent first year. This past year was my second year. We went to the playoffs with 8-4, but just to see the commitment, from the staff, from the players, the resiliency, it's been unbelievable. And being closer to home, being on the East Coast, only being 5.5, 6 hours away from Jersey has been a blessing. So my parents were able to come up for Thanksgiving. We were able to bring my parents and my wife's family out here for Thanksgiving. So it's great time. I'm blessed to be in this position. I couldn't have done it without God, and he's definitely blessed me along this journey.
It's coaching is a wild journey, especially in college. Obviously, it's a wild journey, and obviously things have changed so much dramatically. It's funny because my neighbor played with Santos. So guy was 5. Yeah, it was an offensive lineman now when Santos played. He was an offensive lineman for them, and it was interesting because we were talking. This was about 6 months ago, maybe a little longer. We were talking about NIL, and we were talking about and he was like, because I kind of do this. He was like, can you explain some of the stuff? I said, why? He goes, well, Ricky sent out a message about fundraising, like we're raising money for New Hampshire, and I thought it was so interesting because obviously, like I played at UConn. Now that we're FBS, that's like an ongoing thing. Like we're worried about this player leaving and that player leaving, this player staying, and and kind of building the culture and figuring out how to do that. I thought it was so interesting how that's going on as well at FCS programs, and I don't think a lot of people realize it. And the NAL is just part of it, obviously, transfer portal. And let's talk about how kind of recruiting has changed. And for those people who don't know, New Hampshire is one of the FCS powerhouses. It's been that way for a long time. Ricky's elevated it to another level, meaning they were always pretty good, and they had some elite years. But once he was, elite player there, and now him as the head coach, I mean, they're every year in the playoffs and making a run at it. So talk about what recruiting is really like now for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback on you, that's a lot of things I didn't know, right? I knew UNH, like I give Ricky a hard time every time. My first college game as a freshman high school player that I attended was Coach Santos versus Hampton College, Hampton University in the playoffs. That was my first game. I think he threw for like 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. They won. So I always give him a hard time. I'm this 13, 14-year-old freshman. I see him play. That was my first ever collegiate game. But just seeing the history and where it's been and where he's taken it, I'm glad to be a part of that. And like you said, at one point, we had the longest streak of making the playoffs, right, until North Dakota State just passed that. And then we got, the most player of the year, national players of the year. So they've done a great job. And but the campus is phenomenal, too. That's what a lot of people don't know. I tell people, once you get here, you can see why it's special, how close it is to the ocean, how close it is to White Mountains. It's a lot of things to do here. But to answer your question, recruiting has changed so much. It's almost like free agency now in the NFL. That's why you see a lot of coaches now hiring GMs, right, general managers, to look over, help them out with the roster. And I think it's trickle-down effect. I think from the FBS level to the FCS to Division II, Division III, I think everyone can benefit from this. I think that, even though the FBS are getting top players getting transfers, the high school players have to go somewhere. Right? Where do they go? Do they go FCS? Do they go D2, D3? Right? So that should mean that the pool is better. So that means schools should get better. And it's about how you utilize that and what's your strategy, having a plan. One thing I think our staff does a great job is we try to stay in front of it, right? As best as we can. Not saying you always can stay in front of the curve, but having a plan in place, seeing what it look like. We are believers in high school players, right? We want to make sure our roster, and it's, the science and the numbers will always change, but we want to be roughly around that 65 to 70% high school kids. Like we want to we want to develop guys. And so that 20 to 30 range is you're usually replacing an older guy that may have left. For example, Max Brosman, right? Had a great career here at UNH, and he had a great season, and he's lighting it up right now in the East Shrine Bowl, right? He was able to get an NIL deal with the Gophers, right? So we had to go bring in a transfer quarterback. I lost a wide receiver to our OC. We followed him to Tennessee Tech, so I had to go get a wide receiver, right? Just had a receiver who's Canadian who declared himself for the CFL draft, so I had to go replace him with an older guy, right? So we're not a university that's going to bring in 50 to 60 transfers. We want to bring in the right fit, guys that know this culture, because UNH is a special place, and we don't want to lose that. Guys that know what that means, guys going to do great in the classroom, guys that are just not looking to play football. Because I tell you this, Ricky does a really great job of making this a life program, right? You're going to get a great degree, and you're going to play great football. And with keeping that in mind is how we look at our recruiting landscape. And then with the NIL, that's changing everything. Don't know where it's going to go, right? Don't know if they're going to cap it off. Don't know if they're going to do it by conference, do it by team. So it'll be interesting to see where that go. And for our guys do a great job when they get here of laying out the land, right? Because there's so many opportunities here for them, whether it's clothing line, whether it's restaurants, car dealerships. They do a great job with that. And with the internship opportunities, that's the biggest thing I preach here because of our location, because we have Boston, because we have a train station on campus. They could be here for the summertime. They can work out in the morning, get on the train, be in Boston within an hour, and be able to get experience. So now when they graduate, right, unlike me, I wish I would have did internships. Now they need two. So being able to do that your freshman, sophomore year helps tremendously.
What is the area that you're recruiting? Do you have an area, or how is that kind of landscape changed? I know that's a little bit different now. I know people have areas, but they kind of also, if someone comes across in their position, they're handling it. Talk about how you guys handle that.
Yeah, so we do both. I love the way it's working out for us. So what I mean by both, so we'll start out in area, right? So to answer your question, I have South Jersey. We'll get up into Central Jersey. It's kind of where we'll split right around that Trenton area. I was trying to fight for Bergen. They didn't let me get way up there, but we got some great coaches on staff that can recruit. So typically do from Central Trenton on down. I just picked up Philly, that Philly area, Eastern PA, and then I have Florida, right, from Central on down is my area. So once we get into the August range now, once we already evaluated everybody in our area, is when we switch off to position-based, right? When I say switch off, it's like full-time. Because if there's a player that I really like that's not in my area, he will get a text from me. He will get a call from me, right? So we're already building that relationship. I'm already building my board, but that's just full-time now. That is just saying for everybody, hey, now we're into position recruiting. But yeah, the toughest part is knowing when to switch off. When do you do it? Do you do it in April? Do you do it in May? Like, what's the magic time? I don't know what that is. Still trying to figure that out. But I think it's important, especially if a guy that you're going to vouch for, a guy you believe in, a guy you're going to give a full ride to be able to build that relationship for as long as possible. That way you can dot your I's, across your T's, and meet the family, and talk to the janitors, talk to the principal, get a real feel for who this individual is when you bring them on campus.
That has to be the hardest thing too, because you might build relationships with some kids and then you move in a different direction. And do you guys have a philosophy, or you may come in somebody late, right? Transfer, obviously, you're gonna have to build a relationship quick and try to get somebody in. Or you might come on a player later that you may not looking at. How do you guys handle that part of it? Because that's changed a lot, right? When you were recruiting primarily high school kids all the time, you try to establish that relationship and try to build the best you can over the years, and then get yourself in a situation where those players want to come to you. How do you do that now, where you kind of have to do them a little bit more quickly in some cases, and figure out a way to build it sometimes in the short term, and then sometimes you got to break off the relationship, right? So how do you kind of handle those kind of things?
Yeah, so for me, two big things: transparency and honesty. I will always be upfront. I will let every kid that I'm recruiting know, hey, we're either taking one high school kid or we're going to take one high school kid and one transfer. And I let them know, hey, this is our process. If we're able to go through this process, it could be short, it could be long. If you feel like it's a place for you, and then I let them know, hey, where you are on our board. I literally have these conversations with them. And I tell them things, hey, this is why this individual is high on our board. This is why you are where you are. These are things you got to work on. If you do things your senior year, you can go up if he doesn't commit by that time, right? And then I say, hey, he also has Georgia, Penn State, such and such, right? So there's no way, we don't know when he'll make a timeline. We don't know when he'll make a decision, right? We don't know if he's going to even come to UNH, but just being fully transparent, letting everybody know, not just the player, letting the coach know, letting the parents know, right? Whoever is their hero, right? Making sure they know, hey, what the plan is at UNH and how they want to go about processing it is very important for me. And I am, and to a fault, I'm honest. I'm open with the guys. I let them know. Like, I'm not a guy who's going to hide. Like, I don't need to give out a business card. I say, hey, take my number. Take my cell phone number, dude. You can call me, text me anytime. My DMs is open. And that's who I am. And I think that's what God called us to do. Like, I'm not a big wig. I'm a human being just like all of us. And I let the guys know that. And if I'm going to open my home up to you, I want to get to know you. I want to know everything about you. So being open, being honest, being transparent, leading with love, I think will be the biggest thing that will help me along my journey.
No doubt about it. And I think that's the hardest thing, is that process of figuring out which guys to talk to, which guys you're interested in. I like that on the board. Like, I always tell kids that they should ask, if you're getting invited to a camp or something like that, and coach says they're recruiting you, ask where you are on the board, right? Because that helps you make a decision as to if that's the right camp for you to go to, or you're really going to have uphill climb if you do go to that camp. And because the time is like the biggest thing, right, of the essence, right? Like, you don't want to waste time recruiting somebody that's not interested in your school, and you don't want them to waste time if it's not going to be a spot available. Talk about the FCS landscape, because this is the hardest thing for people to understand, I think, because it's different than FBS. There's like New Hampshire had, what do you guys have, 65? Is it 65 scholarships?
Yes, you can get the most you can get is that 63, 65 range, depending
Okay.
on what your budget is. Sometimes schools can fully fund all 63, 65. Some of them can only get 60. So that's very important to know, where the FBS, they all had 85 and now they're moving to 105. Right. So we will opt into that. We will get to that 105, but we don't have the funding to get to 105 where it's going to be a full there. So some schools will, some schools won't. But what they'll do is it'll allow you to now max your roster at 105. So for us, we give out fulls, we give out partials, we have walk-ons, and that's where I think is unique for a lot of the parents to understand what does a partial mean, right? And that can vary if it's in-state, out-of-state, how much that individual gets from athletics, but then also knowing, hey, if I do great in the classroom, which is very important, I preach to the kids because it opened up so many doors. You have a 3.8. Between a 3.8 and a 3.3 could be 20 grand that can help you towards school. So between those three, full, partial, and walk-ons is how we build our roster.
So you are, so you also will have a 105 as your roster max at FCS. So FCS now can go to 105 if they wanted to. Is that? If like, let's say tomorrow New Hampshire say, hey, I know a billionaire came in and it's
your buddy donated. He helped us out.
Right, exactly. give the ability to go to 105, right? So you could have, so FCS could have 105 if they want. So basically it's just a roster limit across the board at 105, and at FBS, a lot of those schools like Alabama or whatever obviously are going to go to 105. But at FCS, you guys are 63, 65, whatever you guys are carrying right now. You could go to 105 if you wanted to, but more than likely you're going to have more of these partials than, like when I played, when UConn was FCS, those were full rides, right? The other guys are like pure walk-ons. So I think that's kind of, I guess, evolved a little bit because of the 105 roster. So you have some guys that'll be on full, you have some guys that'll be on partial scholarship with financial aid. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So, like the Blue Bloods, right? It'd be interesting to see what North Dakota State does, South Dakota State does, Montana, right? To see how they do their roster. But for us, yeah, we have 105 right now. You're having those tough discussions, right? Like what are we doing? We were already around that 105 range, so it doesn't typically affect us, which has been a blessing. But it eliminated how many walk-ons you could take in a class now, right? So you really got to be thorough. You really got to be strategic. Hey, where do we need a walk-on at? Do we need O-lineman? Do we need D-lineman? Hey, how many receivers we're going to use? In our conference, they thought a lot, right? So how many guys we're going to probably need for scout, right? How many guys are going to want up with the ones and twos, right? How many guys are going to travel? So now that's why you need the GM, right? The guy that can have those tough conversations with you and tell you why, and hey, what's the magic number? Hey, we should travel 9 O-linemen, or hey, we should travel 7 receivers, 8 receivers, depending if they contribute on special teams, right? So, but yeah, as far as, what do you say, Coach?
Yes, that's always a factor, right? The special teams aspect is what a lot of people don't really like look at that part as anything, right? It's offense, defense, but it's those guys that can do both and can help out on a special team here or there is where that GM really comes in handy. That guy can now focus on that roster wise. And now you guys can continue to do the recruiting, continue to do the actual coaching, where this guy can handle the logistics of it and just help you out with parameter wise too. Like, hey, you only got this many receivers to work with, and these are only guys that are traveling. So you know what? This dude better know how to be a gunner as well, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff. So that it's just a huge benefit. And I'm sure you'll see that trickle down more to that FCS level, where right now it's kind of, the FBS, they've been doing it for a while. It's just now it's really starting to come to fruition where those guys are getting paid more than anybody else,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the roster thing is an interesting issue. And what's funny, I looked up online to see what your guys stadium looks like, because when I played, it was like. And by the way, stadium's beautiful. What you guys have built there is
Thank
unbelievable.
you.
When I played, it was like a really like a glorified high school stadium. But I'll tell you this though, the fans were mean though.
Yes.
The fans were mean. Like they literally threw food at you.
Passionate.
And yeah, oh yeah, man. Like they I mean, every time we played there, like you coming in at halftime, like I remember getting hit with like orange peels and all kinds of things, and like literally getting hit with that stuff. And I was like, man, I'm like, these guys really, their fans, like they're into it, like they care. And you can hear everybody individually yelling at you because when the stadium you're in now, you guys have a really nice stadium, but back then it was like, oh man, that guy over there, that big huge guy right there, is throwing stuff at me. So it was pretty wild. But it's really cool to see what they've built up at New Hampshire and the program, because football was always king. Well, I guess hockey's probably pretty big too. Yep, but that's the other big sport, right? I guess.
Top
right?
two. Yep, top two. Hockey, they do a great job there. They're winning a bunch there. But I would say, yeah, hockey, football, or your top two here on university. And they did a really good job with that stadium. It was built in 19. I saw the pictures back in the day when it was grass. You get a good feel. And those fans are still passionate. They're showing up every day. They're screaming, had the ride out, call it the dungeon, right? It's tough. A lot of great things happen for the Wildcats at home and right here in Durham. So, but that's a true testament to our fans, to our fan base, to Wildcat Nation.
That's something you build over time, right? Like consistency and winning, brings those guys out, and it also brings an appeal to go to UNH as a student, not just like. We always have this argument, and it not an argument, but a conversation about this. When your football team is good, whether it's college, whether it's high school, the entire not just athletics of a school, but just the whole school in general has a different vibe to it, right? Everything kind of follows suit with football. And whether it's, because it's only once a week, or whether it's because the amount of guys on the team, or, they're usually the biggest guys walking around campus, so they're easily spotted, right? But everybody knows what a football team at a school does. And I just think that's part of the appeal to go to a place if you're going to go and not be a student athlete in college. And, UNH has done that. Like, they've won for a long time.
Yeah, one of the things I think that's interesting is that UNH, and people don't realize that when you go to states. So, like, one of the things I think is this was the old Yankee Conference, which was really unique about it. And I think UNH has been able to hold on to that really well and grow it. And I could see UNH one day turning around and say, hey, we're going to go FBS too. Just because they're one of the places that I think have that capability, because the whole state is behind them. So like if you go there, if you go to New Hampshire, like the whole state of New Hampshire knows who you are. Like players, I bet you players find that out and they're surprised by that, and because if they play it like other FCS programs, let's say you went to Richmond or something like that, like you have Virginia, like you're not one of the top, even though it's a very good program, you're not one of the top dogs, other than maybe around Richmond. But in the state of New Hampshire, players at the University of New Hampshire, everybody knows who you are. Like I bet you players are surprised by that when they first come on, because when they're getting recruited, they're thinking, FCS, they're not thinking it's like Ohio State, but it is like Ohio State,
right.
just a smaller state. But it's the same kind of atmosphere in a sense that everybody knows who the player in the state of New Hampshire. Everybody knows who those players are.
It's funny you bring that up, because we had an OV and I had my UNH hoodie on, and we're leaving dinner, and you hear somebody beep their horn and say, "Go Wildcats!" Right? So to your point, they're very passionate. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know if I was a player or a coach, but they saw the UNH Wildcats hoodie, and then the recruits were like, "Oh wow, coach, they really do support y'all." So and that's a living testament right there that the fan base is incredible. They're behind you. We got one of the oldest rivalries with playing Dartmouth, right? Playing for the Granite.
Yeah, you just signed that one. Like, you just linked that one. I'm like, that was perfect.
Derek, you're like in a fishbowl.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You were in like a fishbowl there for a second, but I'm sorry. It was like you were like it wasn't. I couldn't hear it. Say what you were going to say, Derek. I couldn't hear you there. Oh, all right. But yeah, Coach. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just saying, no, it's just playing against Dartmouth. You good, Derek? Technology.
Go ahead, Coach. What were you saying? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, just the passion they bring behind playing Dartmouth every year. It's been great for the state, and those guys do a great job there. And we love playing for that trophy. We play for the Musket versus Maine, so having those rivalries, having those close teams here, I think has allowed UNH to grow, right, and to create the atmosphere of where it is now.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the cool things that's still there. That Dartmouth New Hampshire rivalry, and it's well, you guys must get the best of that rivalry most of the time. I'm assuming now. I bet you in the old days, though, old days was probably the other way around. Because I remember this from when I was at UConn back when we used to, they cut it off because we were just smacking them so much. But if you look at the rivalry, it was still like Yale still had like so many more wins than us. It was like we were never going to catch up to Yale. It would have had to be another 50 years of playing for us to catch up to beating Yale. But at the until they cut it off. But that's one of the cool things you guys still have, right? Although my guess is that most years you guys probably have the better group. But that is a cool thing. Like that's especially since those guys are like Mr. Smarty. So it's a little extra fun to take them out. I'm sure. Talk a little bit about receivers. What you like to do with them. How you get receivers better. Because in general today, receivers are more polished as far as some of like their route running, some of their skill sets than maybe in years past, because everybody's got a trainer and all that kind of stuff, and they all play on 7-7. Talk about some of the things that you really like to do from a development standpoint to take those guys to the next level.
Yeah, so to your point, right, these kids are playing all year round. They're playing 7-on-7. They have the private trainer, right? So when I get them, I literally want to get them on the board. I want to get them in the classroom. I want to know, what do they know cerebral? How can they – hey, what's this coverage? What's this corner doing? What's this safety doing, right? How do we read the triangle? Who's the alley defender, right? So that's the biggest thing when I get here is helping guys recognize coverages. How can we utilize that knowing, hey, if pre-snap, the safety is at 8 yards versus 10 yards, right? Does he roll to me? Does he roll away? Does he stay on the hash, right? What are the keys that's going to tell us, hey, it's cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, right? I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest receiver. But one thing I think I did really well was recognize coverage and allow me to play faster. And that's what I like to teach these young guys is, hey, yes, I know you're talented. You wouldn't be here if you wasn't. But knowing – hey, if this is press bell versus press man, this is how I should run my curl, right? Understanding nuances and having a feel for that, setting up certain routes, knowing how to say, hey, this is I should do a walk-off release here, or I should do a speed release here, right? Just having an understanding of why I would like certain things, I think is the first thing I like to do with the guys, right? And then the second thing is really getting into the playbook. I think that's something where we're a pro-style offense. A lot of kids are in the offense where it's spread and they getting signals, they know what to do. So I like to be able to peel back the onion slowly. Tell the guys, hey, these are our formations, right? This is our trade shifts and motions, okay? These are our concepts, right? This is what we have to master in order to play here, to play right away, right? And then once the guys understand that, now we can go to the 400, 500 level and we can talk about, okay, now against this play, this is why we like it against cover 2. right? I want them to know and be so diverse. They know, hey, the X, the H, the Z, the Y, they know all of it. And the reason why they're not playing quarterback is because they can't throw, right? Like, I want them to know everything. I want them to know where the ball is going before the ball get there. And that might be, a negative to it because now they know they're not getting the ball. They might not job. That's where your culture comes in, knowing, hey, just because you're not getting the ball here, I need you to do a great job being a good teammate, knowing what I'm doing. But outside of knowing the playbook, outside of teaching them the coverage, I think when you get these receivers, I think releases is something that you always have to work on. I think that's something that every day you have to start there with stance and starts and creating a menu for the guys. I'm big on telling the guys, hey, this is our tool belt, right? You never know what project you have, but you're going to need a certain tool. And that's why I tell those guys, hey, I'm going to give you all the tools, but just know certain tools work for certain projects. And then knowing, hey, what's your special tool, right? We all should have three. I tell the guys, give them baseball terms. We should have three releases, right? You have your fastball, you have your curveball, and you have your changeup, right? Your curveball, your changeup protects your fastball, right? So whatever you do well, if you're a split release guy, if you're a speed release guy, your curveball should counter that. Your changeup should protect both of them, right? So that way when they watch film, they don't just know, oh, this guy, man, he's 5'11" and he runs a 4.2. He's going to try to go speed release. Well, yeah, it's going to work, but he's going to jump it. So now you should do a double cut, right? Go left and come back right? You got to protect that there. Have a triple cut, right? Protecting both of those, but just have an understanding, okay, if I got a big 6'5" receiver, his speed release might not be good. He might have to have a bully release. He might have to have a foot fire release, but understanding and being humble to know, like, it's not that Coach Watkins don't think you could do a speed release. I want you to play to your best ability. Speed release wasn't my go-to. I wasn't going to run by nobody. But a foot fire and a split release was how I was going to shake somebody at the line, and I was going to create leverage, separate at the top of the route. That's what I knew, right? So once the kids understand that, the rhyme and reason why you do it, they'll buy into it, which is why I love this generation, because now they'll say, hey, why, coach, why? And I think some coaches get offended by that. I don't. I run towards that because if I can't tell them why, then I don't know or I don't believe in what I'm teaching them. So like I tell those kids, hey, ask your questions. There's no silly questions. I want you to know so you can play fast out there on Saturday.
Yeah, that's the whole key is to be able to play fast, be able to understand where you have to be, and then obviously being able to make plays. What when you guys are kind of like your practice schedule, what does that look like for a wide receiver, in season? What does that look like for them?
Yeah, so in season, right, let's start. So we'll play on Saturday, right? We get a big win, everyone's celebrating. And then Sunday, the guys will come in. We'll come in early. So offense will meet, defense will lift, right? And then after an hour, we'll switch it out, right? And then the guys are done. Usually by 1 o'clock, we're done. They're watching NFL. Us coaches now are game planning. We're getting ready. So NCAA tells you have to have 1 day off. So for us, that's our Monday, right? So coaches are game planning, players are off, study hall, getting ready for the week. And then we come together Tuesday. So we'll have a special teams meeting right around 2:30. They'll go for 30 minutes, and then we'll go into position group, right? Go into the game plan now, right? So with that Sunday and Monday, we're coming up with our base down. We're coming up with our third down, right? So we'll have an early start on our third down a little bit, but with that main practice on Tuesday is going to be base down. What do we like formationally? What do we like on first and second, right? So that practice will be dictated on that. And then Wednesday is a big red zone third down. And then Thursday, you want to incorporate all of it. And then Friday's your walkthrough. So for the receivers, they'll know, hey, we'll meet. I like to meet and that's when you got to know your audience too, right? I know after a certain time, I'm going to lose their attention, right? So I try to go, 30 minutes, and then I'll go ahead. Let's have a walkthrough before the walkthrough. So whatever we just went over, we're going to walk through it. And then I love with Coach Santos, he has a built-in walkthrough practice. So now any question, anything like this, their third time before we went full speed that we talked about these certain concepts, certain formations, motions. So then when we get indie, right, I can really fine tune and say, hey, this week we're running this route, right? We got to work on it. This is the tangible they can give us. They can give us problems. We got to work on this, right? It might be top of the route. It might be finding the zone, right? Certain things like that. It changed week to week. They're big. They trigger their corner. So we got to be able to work on our blocking. We got to be really good, getting hat placement, good hand placement, understanding where our leverage is, right? We might got to work on that. The quarterback coach might want to be able to throw some more. So we might have more routes on air, right? So that all fluctuates, but as far as the structure and what we're going to work on now, the blueprint will be the same from that first game the last week of August to, hopefully playing in January for national championship.
That's it. That's really interesting. Do you have when you guys meet? Do you guys meet solely by yourselves? Do you meet ever with like the tight ends or as a group, or how do you guys do that there at New Hampshire?
Yeah, so let's say, going to give you, so during camp, right? So during camp, we'll start out individually, and then if there's something that we weren't on the same page, we'll watch practice together, right? That happened this past summer, just so that way the quarterback is hearing how I teach it, the receivers are hearing how the quarterback coach is teaching to the quarterbacks, right? We're all on the same page. This spring, right, we got a new OC, so now we're all in a unit, right? Want everybody to hear his voice, right? So we're all together, we're all in that meeting, right? So, but I would say once the season started, it was just us. It was just, we would on that Sunday, we would meet as a unit. We will cover, hey, did we reach our goals? What we fell short? And then throughout that week now, we went back to meeting with just your position coach.
Cool. It's interesting because everybody does things slightly differently. Hearing how you guys do it is important. A practice schedule too it's really important to understand that when you go and going on the road and you go to recruiting. Do you guys go on the road as much anymore, or is that like, do you first kind of try to find who the guys you're looking for before you go on the road? Because the only reason I bring it up is because the old days, like, used to like hit all the schools in I don't know, say a county, guys refer you to these guys, but because of social media and people can send you their film directly. Do you already have an idea of who you're more interested in, kind of focus on those areas? Yeah,
Coach Santos is big on building relationships and keeping those connections with the high school coaches. So we'll be on the road, right? Okay. We'll hit the New England area, right? We'll make sure we get multiple coaches in the New England area. I just got back from Jersey, right? And then I'll come back in May, right? So that second week of May, I'll be in Jersey, right? Hit some PA while I'm there too. And then that following week now, I'll go to Florida for that week. So typically for us, we'll go out in that January, we'll go out in May, and then we'll get out in June for some camps, and then we'll get out for our bye week during the season. And then if there's anything we need to do, any home visits, we'll hit that in December. But now with the signing day being up, you lose those visits. So now those kids are coming to your campus. But as much as we possibly can, we'll get out on the road. We want to, continue building those relationships with the coaches. We want to get good feedback, right? Because yes, technology is great. Social media is great, right? But I want to sit in with those high school coaches and really know about this kid. Hey, what did he struggle with? How can I help him, right? What did he do well? Why did he do well? Was he a 4-year captain, right? 4-year starter. Okay, he was only a 1-year captain. Why wasn't he his junior year, right? Did he wrestle? Did he play basketball, right? I want to go to those events too, right? I want to see, what is he doing at these meets? What's happening when he's not involved, right? And I think you only can get that is by being hands-on, is being there in person. And I'll never want to lose that touch.
Yeah. Coach, how much do you see, because obviously you're a Camden guy, you're a South Jersey guy originally. We've had numerous discussions on this. The growth of football in South Jersey, right? How have you seen that change and progress just from your time, from when you played to now? Because, I mean, look, we talk about it all the time, the growth down here. We have a couple different reasons as to why that's happening. But, just talk a little bit about that, how you've kind of seen that happen.
Well, so, I have 2 younger nephews, one 9, one 10. They just came back from Vegas. They was out there playing football, right? Full padded, 11 on 11 out there, right? That never would have happened, right? So they're playing year round. They learning, they're being taught. They're seeing the world as well. They're playing against other competition. So that's naturally going to make them better, right? When I was growing up, flag was just getting popular, right? We were playing flag football, right? So now you got the 7-on-7, right? And then now you got the personal trainers. And I think with, social media has allowed now for people to know that there's other people now that can help you train too, right? Like me, it was hard for me to say, hey, who's a good receiver trainer in the area? Well, now you can just Google it. Now you can look on Facebook.
75 million freaking trainers.
Right. So I think now with that, though, comes the pressure, right? It comes the unreal expectations to put out there, right? Where everyone thinks their kid's Patrick Mahomes, that their kid's going to go there, right? That's the negative side of it. But it has expanded our game. It has made us better athletes. It has, closed the gap. I'm not saying we're there yet, but it closed the gap against the Florida kids, against the Georgia kids, Texas kids, because they get great weather all year round. Right, we get it for a few months, right? Yep. So we got to take advantage of that, right? And I'm glad that we're starting to get the indoors. We're able to do anything inside now, but it's helping us now really close that gap. Because when I got to Duke, right, one thing I got there in June. A lot of my buddies, they graduated early in the South, so they were there in May, right? But we didn't have the football year round, so having spring ball was new to me. I thought once the season was over, I was free. No, you're going to do winter conditioning, and then you got spring ball. So that was new, right? Having that mental capacity to understand that, right? And then understanding, hey, in the summertime, you're going to lift, right? In Camden, we lift. We didn't really have a strength coach. A lot of these schools had the strength coaches, right? So when I got there, I was behind. My bench was great, but my squat wasn't, right? So, but I think we're in a great place now where you get the likes of the Alabamas to come here now, right? You get the Georgias to come here now. I think, we always had the talent, right? But now I think we really get the development behind it. Now people are really paying attention to us.
Yeah, I think that's a unique thing that's starting to help in the Northeast. I mean, you're right; they do have an advantage. And when you play the Duke, and then when you came up from Duke, and then went the last year Wagner, it was probably like, man, like you were probably far ahead of a lot of the guys. You know what I mean? So it's really, really an interesting thing, like the ability to play the sport much more. It's funny because remember when the whole concussion movie came out?
Yep.
And I was coaching. Derek was coaching probably high school. Yeah. Derek was coaching high school at the time. I was coaching high school at the time. I was the head coach at the time, and that was a big damage thing. Like we all had to do, like trying to explain.
We were nervous. Like, is this going to be over? Like, right? Yeah. I mean, we were talking to some coaches that were expressing that, like, guys, we got to save our game.
Well, that's the thing. So what's been really awesome about football is how it adapted from that time forward, right? Because when that came out, I remember sitting there like, okay, like, when an 8th grader comes up and this question comes up from a parent, like I got to be able to answer this, right? And answer what this is all about. And a lot of that stuff has also kind of, not all of it has been 100% true either, obviously, from that time pushing forward. But what I think football has done a great job of is adapting to be able to offer so many different types of opportunity to play football, not just tackle. But obviously tackle is what we all love. And that's ultimately, if you want to be able to succeed at the highest level, that's what you got to play. But the ability as a young person to play 7-on-7, to be able to play flag, if they want to play tackle, they can go play travel tackle. They have these hybrid leagues, right, where it's like they're wearing pads, but it's like touch, I think, or flag. And so I think football's really done an amazing job in like 10 years of adapting at the younger levels of all these different things. And almost you look at it and you're like, football's bigger than ever because of that, right? It's bigger than ever. Makes it a little more complicated on the coaching side, because when a player comes from, like, let's say flag and then transitions to tackle, like, this is a different world. You know what I mean? They're two different things. There's things that translate. There's things that don't. But it's really, really interesting because it gives everybody opportunity to play. And what I have noticed, at least on the skill position, lineman is different, but because obviously the blocking and for the D lineman, obviously the physicality of fighting off offensive linemen is a big part of it. But for the skill players, man, it's amazing. Like, you can go and play flag, you can play tackle, you can play 7-on-7, you can play those hybrid leagues. and obviously that's not even counting training, but like, I mean, you're getting training by running those routes over and over again, right? Without even someone coaching you, because you start to learn to adapt and figure things out. Once you learn how to get in the stance and how to use your hands and your feet at the same time, then you start to really kind of get better. Talk about, what the good things that you've seen that football has really done for a lot of the players and kids that have come to you.
Well, I think just more than just guys that came to me. You look at it, there's females playing the sport now, right? They're able to play the flag football, right? They're expanding it worldwide. It's international now. Everyone's playing it. The USA football team, I think, just lost to Canada, and they lost to another team, right? So you see that it's constantly evolving. Players are getting better, right? Not just here locally with us, but across the world, right? And then now you have, Lee's over there. They have the flag football. I think it's going to be in the Olympics, right? So just seeing that, globally our game has expanded. And then for the guys that have come to us, and I think it is a huge testament to playing 7-on-7, to playing year round. They're getting developed. They're able to now where a lot of freshmen didn't play right away, right? But now they're able to have a year round. They can either enroll early in the spring and be able to contribute right away. So that definitely has helped the game, has moved the game forward. I'm blessed to be a part of it. I wish I did have the 7-on-7. I wish I did have the flag.
Right. Yeah. Think about your teammates, man. You'd have all them Camden boys flying around out there.
Right. No. So yeah, it's done great things. I think it's done great things. Open up so many doors, and allow, if someone has just girls, right, that loves football, they still can get them involved, and they still can be involved. They can get in the coach. So it didn't handicap anyone. And seeing with the movie, to your point, right? I think everyone was nervous to see what happened. And I thought the NFL, college, everyone did a great job of talking about prevention, right? Concussion prevention, how to take your head out of the tackle, coming up with rugby tackle, coming up with so many ways to make this game as healthy as possible that we can. I think they did a really good job with that. And, doing our research, seeing a study, and I don't know if it's true and still now, but at one point, soccer had more concussions than football, right? So it allowed everyone to get educated and to be able to see, hey, what's happening, why it happened, how can we prevent it? And I thought everybody got better and everybody cared more. And now it was, okay, how can we expand this game in a healthy way? And I think that's what started this and allowed this to grow.
Awesome. It's been great having you on, Coach. What is the best way if a player wants to reach out to you? I don't know if it's Twitter or Instagram. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah. So I'll give my Twitter only because we can only talk to 26s right now NCAA rule. Right. I can't have 27s, 28s text me. So
listen, I'm sure they're in your DMs, Coach. I'm sure they're in your messages. You know how these guys work. Yeah. I'm sure mommy and daddy are in there too.
Yeah, so it's Coach Watkins, Watkins, UNH, right? Capital UNH. They can follow me on there. Follow me, DM. If you're 26, I can respond back to you. If you're 27, 28, I have to wait. I only can send messages about our camp, getting you to camp. And I want to help. I want to help as many people.
Can you reach out to their coaches, though? Or so if it's a 27 or 28 that you like?
I can.
Yeah, okay.
I can. Yep, I can reach out to the coach. That's something definitely. And then other thing, too, is letting guys know, hey, they're in my area. Right. So there might be a kid, let's say in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Right. That's not my area. I'll pass to their area coach because I like to go through the proper channel. Right. And that's one thing I learned in this business is you have to respect everyone if you want to get respect, and you have to do it the right way because it comes back on you. So that's the way I want it. I make sure I do it. Say, hey, I'll pass it to our Wisconsin recruiter. Hey, let me know what you think. If you think it's great, let the coach know. If not, let the coach know why not, right? So just so that we articulating that, we're all on the same page.
Phenomenal. Coach, we'll let you go. Have a fantastic day, and thanks so much for coming on today.
Appreciate you. Have a good one, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Bye. All right, that was great. It was great having him on. There was and then it comes back. I'm trying to figure out if it's your internet. There's or it's your mic. Like sometimes it comes and like you'll talk and it sounds like a robot.
Yeah, it might be. I have to check
You
some
think-
of my stuff.
which-
My shit, I gotta update it, dude. My shit's old. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Is it
my
gonna be your
laptop's and
computer or
whatnot.
your laptop? Oh, maybe it's your laptop then. Maybe it's your like
Yeah, it might be.
if I send you a mic because I got a new mic, would that? You
I
think
have
that-
one. I just haven't used
Oh,
it.
then it's not your mic. Then it
No,
must be.
because I haven't even used my mic like with it. I'm gonna play around with some of the stuff a little bit and kind of see
Yeah,
what it
'cause I
is.
don't-
Because I have a
I'm trying
bunch
to
of
figure
stuff.
out which one it is because it seems like maybe it's just the internet sometimes goes in and out.
Yeah, I think that's been it. Sometimes it's been good recently, but I'll check it and whatnot. Like, because I see you got your new mic too. That's good. Sometimes that's like I'm sure been an adjustment.
Well, this probably I don't have to speak as loudly, right? You hear me pretty good, right? So,
Right.
And it's probably a little bit more clear. The other mic is good. I had that like little like portable mic,
Right.
was really good, really good. But this allows me to like not have to speak as loudly to get it picked up. So you probably picks me up with me speaking actually fairly lowly. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I don't think you have to do much.
yeah, I don't have to do much. So, but that was real good, man.
I didn't even know he was from Camden, so that was a bonus.
You know, the name
Played at Duke.
sounded really familiar, and then
It sounds like he's got a good process, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and he's still a little bit of that old school in him. Like, yo, we're gonna hit college, like we're gonna hit high schools. It's probably why they're successful in that thing, but kind of,
the head coach
like-
there was
but
literally
they're kind of looked at still, like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, UNH, go do your thing, and they probably just sneak in under the radar and grab some really good fucking players that
They
are willing
always
to go
do,
to UNH, right? Because I'm sure that's I'm not going up there type of thing. And then, like you said, when you go visit it, it's probably like, whoa, this is way cooler than I thought, you know?
and they always do well with Jersey kids. But yeah, it's a thing where
I know.
UNH really does a great, like Ricky Santos was like,
Yeah, he
probably
was the guy.
best quarterback. I think he was the best quarterback of all time there. So
And he was there with Chip.
Ricky Santos was Chip Kelly, yeah, because the guy was my neighbor who was a lineman there.
When
He
did
played
Nico
for
go?
Chip. He played for Chip. So what's that?
Nico was there with.
Nico is probably a little bit after them.
So he's like after Chip.
Yeah, he's after. I'm pretty sure he's after Chip. I think.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, no, I think he's after because when I had so you know who Anzalone is he might be a linebacker. So he was a safety at New Hampshire, Anzalone, and that was like when I was an agent, I was up there, and Anzalone was coming out, and Ceriti was coming out the same time or the year before.
He left New Hampshire in 2006, so it was after.
Yeah, it's Ceriti's like 2018, 2019, dude. He has to be. Maybe let me see. He has to be.
Oh, I didn't know Chip Kelly played at New Hampshire.
What year did he play?
81 to 84.
Oh, he's much older. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Ceriti was 2000. Okay, Ceriti was 2014. 2014. 2013, 2012. Yeah, so he was through 2014, I guess.
Cool.
Interesting.
It's a good place. It's a cool place. And he was
no.
I reached out, man. He was like, let's go. Like, you cool. Let's talk ball. You know, some of these guys go, whatever. And I don't judge, everybody can do it their own way. But like, a guy like that, he just knows like, hey man, I'm willing to come talk ball. It's cool.
Yeah, listen, it gets your name out there and it gets your school out there. Get your school out there. Like that's
what you got to lose at this point. Everybody's on social media no matter what. And all it takes is a little bit of an algorithm and you're right. You're all set. So
Well,
Awesome.
it
So,
will, because
Friday we'll have it's funny because we were just talking about him with Liam yesterday. Corey Stefanik, who we've had on before, he was a high school coach then, and he is now going into his second collegiate DC job at Worcester up in New England. So,
and we interviewed. He was in high school, right?
he was coaching high school. Then he went to Dean College for a year, and now he's making the jump up there. So, be interesting to hear his process of kind of how he's been moved through it and whatnot.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, we'll see you on Friday then.
Friday it is.